Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I want to first say thank you guys so much for your patience. I know I was running a few minutes behind, but technology sometimes can be a challenge. So we are rolling with it. I want to thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I'm excited to have a repeat guest. I have Esperanza Smith here with me, and we recorded a couple weeks ago. I don't know. Time just kind of, I never know what day it is when I'm doing these podcast interviews because so much is crammed into a week with so many guests and great insights and wisdom. But I'm excited to have her with me. We actually got connected through a mutual business opportunity that we have as brand ambassadors in the metaverse. So I'm excited to have her with me today. And before we get into networking connections and whatever else comes out of the conversation, I want to give her the opportunity to introduce herself.
Thanks again so much, Lachelle, for having me here today with you. And I am so excited as well just to be able to share a little bit. My background is as a holistic educator. That's what I primarily worked as far as my profession most of my life. I did work also in social services before education, and then eventually moved into more of a holistic practice as an energy medicine practitioner. I'm also the founder and executive director of a nonprofit organization called PureEsperanza, and we are committed to consciousness expansion and well-being and our connection through the metaverse. So we're taking these holistic practices and this organization with its 6 key elements in education and arts, healing, business, environment, and social global awareness right into the metaverse.
I love that. Now, this is a good thing to kind of start with because a lot of people are fearful. We're talking about gas and food shortages and
Yeah.
all these different things that are going on. And having the vision to kind of see beyond where we're at and promoting a business that's futuristic, so to say.
Mhm.
How are you able to maintain that type of mindset? What is it that got you on that path?
Well, I would say that, for me personally, the idea of a holistic center was always somewhere in a vision that had come to me at about 18 years old. And then throughout the course of my life, I was in different locations with different groups of individuals and groups thinking that it was going to manifest in a physical form.
Mhm.
And my most recent move with all of that came from Chicago, where I was stationed in the Loop, and we thought for sure this was it. We were going to start the physical location and center as an international center there. And that's when COVID came. And everything kind of just stopped. Everything was at a halt. We had investors, we had the location, we had everything ready to go. And it just kind of came into a dead halt. And we had to reassess. And it was around that time that, how it is when we look back at things, how things mysteriously appear for us. Is true to our vision, and keeping that alive, and despite different ups and downs, we stay focused and true to that. And suddenly there were individuals that popped into my life. I'm not a real super techie person, but these individuals came forth, and this was even before Rhino XR Studios that manifested after that. And we had started talking about the metaverse, and instantly I felt that same charge of energy as I have used as my guiding light, and the way that I move through life. And it was that electricity that kind of ran through me, which was, I just saw it and I knew that that's where we needed to go. And then it still was 2 years later now, and we moved out of the city, and those global connections that we had started to form with Pure Esperanza continued to form, and obviously much more accessible even now through the metaverse and how we're going to be creating that. But just really seeing this as an opportunity. And then my husband, who really handles more of the business end of a lot of different in his career, and then also as board president of Pure Esperanza, and other board members that we have that are also global and international speakers, writers, and involved heavily in business also, just were able to really kind of confirmed that yes, this was a way that we wanted to go. And obviously, when we're reading business reports and things like that, which isn't where I spend all my time because I'm really more in the focus of education and healing. But as we do that, we can see that so many organizations, so many different types of corporations and groups and individuals even are just moving into the metaverse now in a lot of different ways. And we see this as the next wave that's coming. Just I'm old enough, and I'm sure you are too, to know what it was when internet first came and we couldn't quite wrap our heads around all of that. And here we are, and all of us use it pretty much as a daily practice. And that's exactly how I envision it'll be with the metaverse, and that there will be many accessible things. I think that what you were speaking to as far as let's say the fuel, the economy, all these different things. I think that there's a lot of opportunity with the metaverse. I also think that there's a lot of responsibility to carry with that technology in terms of not disconnecting, but finding ways to actually be more connected. And for all of us that are facilitating experiences in there, to allow people to connect with their world, hopefully, bring that kind of benefit to their lives that they can actually access in the real world, not just, in the metaverse. And beyond that, I think that there will have to be some initial investments made, so I think that it's not just like a cure-all, because while economy prices are going high and, there is food shortages and there's all these different kind of constrictions that we're seeing in the economy, we have to know that, there's going to be upgrades to our systems, and there's going to be different types of technical and equipment that we're going to need and things like that. But I do think that it's going to become more accessible to us. And I know for our nonprofit organization, we're definitely looking at teaming up so that when we're doing our grant writing, we can actually look at how to assist individuals with things like upgrading their systems and the technology that they will need so they can access it more readily.
Now, so, this is a good place to kind of ask the question about,
Yeah.
having that hopeful outlook. What do you do just in your daily routine
Hmm.
that helps you to kind of be able to balance having the present happening right around you, but still having that ability to see beyond where you're at today? Because a
Yeah.
lot of people are kind of in this place where, they're stuck in just 2 years ago when the pandemic started.
Mhm.
It's that fear around, what is tomorrow going to look like? Or is there going to be something else that's just going to turn our world upside down? And a lot of people are paralyzed.
Yeah.
They want to kind of grab for security, not really grab towards something that's unknown. So how do you
Yeah.
manage to have that type of mindset during these times?
Okay, well, I will break it down really easily. In my work as an energy medicine practitioner, it is my firm belief that everything is energy. We have
Mhm.
all kinds of ways to work with our healing. And that healing isn't always just like, oh, I got a cut and I got to, stop the bleeding, or, oh, I have an emotional trauma and I have to go, into a place in myself so that I can heal that, or a mental type of wounding. There's wounding on all different kinds of levels, and we're all dealing with different kind of woundings, but it really comes down to this energetic practice of being able to heal ourselves. And I think that there's a lot of misconceptions about that in terms of how we access that. I believe that meditative practice is one way, and that there's a lot of meditative practices and all kinds of different ones. It's not just sitting in a lotus position, listening to a perfect surrounding and all that. There's a lot of ways to be present that are very practical. A simple thing that I learned many years ago when my children were tiny and I was finding very little time for myself. And I was very engaged in, what their lives were and in teaching. And for a while, I even homeschooled. It was to sweep. And when I swept, I was actually in the motion of bringing myself into the present moment, like really being present with the activity of sweeping or the activity of folding clothes or whatever, and incorporating my children as they got older to be with me in that activity. Later on, not only did I find that out when I was doing deeper training in Waldorf Education from its founder, Rudolf Steiner, and ways that as teachers we were present in the classroom, but all these really small, simple little practical techniques, along with breathing that came through yoga, along with other types of practices on mindfulness that I used, along with my blessing when I ate. And slowly I began to incorporate all these pieces. It didn't all happen at once. It was like all these little things that I picked up along the way, but the key was implementation, beginning to practice it. It's like anything. It's like if you want better handwriting, you're going to have to give it some focus. If you want to get better at a sport, you're going to have to give it some practice. If you want to, whatever it is, dancing, whatever it is that you love to do or want to do, you're going to have to give it your attention. And the moment you bring your energy to that is when things begin to create a shift. But you want to stay true to that practice and develop it, because it is a cultivation that has to happen.
Hmm. I love that. And I think a lot of people, they hear about holistic breathing, things that really sound uh, a good to be a good practice, but they just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So when you mention the whole thing about holistic, there's so much where we're in a microwave society where we want things instant, you know, right now. And so talk to us about,
Yeah.
someone's watching, what that really looks like from going from where you are now without maybe a holistic background or
Yeah.
understanding to wanting to make that transition. What is a realistic timeline or some steps that somebody can take to kind of get to that other side?
Sure. I would say that one of the very first things you want to do, wherever you are, whoever you are, and I think I mentioned this the last time we were together, is just to take something very simple, like the way you get up in the morning and the way you go to sleep at night. Those are
Hmm.
two simple times that you can carve out, even if it's just minutes or moments. But when you're in bed, waking up, and you're first acclimating to the idea that you woke up,
Hmm.
even if it's your alarm going off or whatever is happening, but you're waking up, or the baby crying, whatever that might be, but you're waking up and you take that first deep breath. And you can begin by taking that deep breath and centering yourself. And in that centering, you could do all kinds of things by coupling it. You could breathe deeply, and just by breathing deeply and bringing yourself fully into your body, you can begin to envision, like, oh, I'm breathing down here at my feet. I'm breathing here into my knees, literally taking that breath, like as if you're taking it right to those body areas and traveling up your body through your torso, through your stomach, through your heart, through your throat. And you can even touch the energy centers. For those of you that might not know what the chakra systems are energetic systems that are centers of your spine, and in the front and in the back. So it's all around you. So you can picture it as three-dimensional, and you can place your hands on your belly and breathe into that belly, then into the solar plexus, into the heart, into the throat, into the third eye, into the crown, and at the very base, down by your pelvis. But those seven chakras moving up, you can actually just breathe into each of those spaces and calm yourself down. Doing 4 by 4 by 4 breaths, which actually resets the parasympathetic system, because as mammals, humans, we're the only ones who can't reset when we come out of a wound or a trauma or a fast excitement or something that kind of takes us out of ourselves. Animals can do that. They reset
Mm.
automatically. We don't. So when we do a 4 by 4 breath, meaning a deep inhale to the count of four, a holding for the count of four, an exhale for the count of four, and then holding again for four, and do 4 rounds of four. That's scientifically proven, like medical, American Medical Association,
Mhm.
resetting your parasympathetic system. As energy medicine practitioners or healers that practice in this way, we know that the breath is essential and vital. So doing a breath like that during the course of the day, whatever you're running into, wherever you feel yourself, where you're feeling yourself altered or taken out, maybe you're in a moment where you're feeling stressed, that's a perfect way to bring yourself down. And what it's going to do, it's going to actually reset that parasympathetic system. It's going to lower the heart rate, It's going to actually bring clarity to the mind because you're going to have a different process going on, and you're going to make that connection from your brain to your heart. If you use that in addition by holding your belly and holding your heart when you're doing it, you're now activating those energy centers. And that's a whole other level that you're going to bring into getting your energy balanced and aligned again. So that's simple, two simple things. And then going to sleep is kind of that repeat of the morning, but you can actually go into sleep by whatever ways you know, commune with your inner self, your spirit, God, whatever name you want to give it, whatever
Mhm.
that source is for you. And for some, I don't get hung up on semantics, so I can say prayer, I can say meditate. They
Mhm.
have a little bit of different meaning for me, but I do both. And so whatever that is, whatever your spiritual path is, whatever your religion is, you can come into that moment to calm yourself and go into that sleep, asking for the assistance, because believe it or not, what we're facing here in the world. There's lots of
Mhm.
things happening, but these are the kinds of practices that help still us, that help gain our clarity and our
Mhm.
focus and our centering. And that's what's absolutely needed, so that when we encounter those moments of stress, we can step into them with more confidence, with a clarity that's needed, and a fearlessness. And I would say that's the word. Last year, I was running a whole meaningful moments, 365 days, and giving little bits of wisdom just from encounters of the course of the day. And that was my last concluding piece for 2021. It's step into the new year with fearlessness. That's not
Mm.
something that doesn't mean you're free of it forever. It just means that
Mhm.
when you encounter it, you have that strength. You've developed the resilience, the know-how of how to enter that space and breathe into it. No need to run away, no need to avoid it. You have the resources. And if that is also coupled by your faith, your connection with whatever that greater source is for you, now you have an indomitable spirit that you're working with. So, energetically, these are the steps that
Mhm.
you can take into practice from little simple things you do. And I would say another one is when you drink that glass of water, take that deep breath, and then just see that water going in, doing a cleansing of your whole body, your
Mhm.
internal system, your mind, your emotions, all of that, because everything is working on an energetic level. We are so powerful as human beings. We really are. But most of us only tap into a slight little fraction of it. And then we're like so amazed that, oh my gosh, look what happened. But this is what we want to cultivate and practice. And this is what so many people that are especially practicing energy medicine right now are working deeply with individuals and in groups and in organizations to move this shift and this consciousness for individuals, so that we can really see ourselves as the powerful beings that we are, and as master creators, co-creators of our experience.
Love that. And I think this is I mean, it's natural and simple, but it's hard and unfamiliar for a lot of people. So when we think about, it sounds like something that a lot of us want to aspire to do. But sometimes I think it's that element of, I love the word that you use, fearlessness. Is having that fearlessness. But what are some things that people are really afraid of when it comes to tapping into their own inner energy, power, however you want to say?
I would say that when my personal experience in my own life and in working with individuals are, I think, across the board, always having to do with what's related to our self-worth,
Mhm.
who we don't see ourselves as, and therefore we're always striving to be something other than who we are, and
Mm.
embracing that.
Mhm.
I believe a lot of it has to do with our doubt of ourselves, or a
Mhm.
distrust. Energetically speaking, and as an energy medicine practitioner, these lower chakras are all about that. They're the foundational pieces of our security, and that security isn't on the material level, although it spills over into the material level too.
Mhm.
But it's about that secureness that we feel in our own skin, being here in this world, in this life,
Mhm.
and how we traverse the course of our journey in that way. And certainly we all have different experience and things. And then those pieces, I think, are part of what we get stuck in, whatever those stories are, not breaking free of those stories, reliving those stories. And as long as those stories are imprinted in your field, in your memory, in your whatever, your physical plane, emotional plane, mental plane, wherever they're stuck,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to keep re-triggering, and different things will be setting them off with different relationships. And the funny thing about the way life is, those relationships will keep occurring, whether it's your family or it's your children that come to your world so beautiful and innocent, and then grow up and now you're faced with some of these same challenges of things, that unresolved issues. They
Right.
show up at your business, at your job, at your people, you coworkers. They will show up, period,
Mm-hmm.
because we're being like pushed to, this is a place where you need to heal, this is a place that you need to look
Mm-hmm.
at. And we begin to, the more we begin to love ourselves and heal ourselves in this way, we can see these experiences for what they are. We can even see the beauty in what appears to be individuals that maybe would have been confrontative initially or something of that nature. We
Mm-hmm.
see this also as like there's a triangle of dysfunction that exists that has to do with either being the victim, the rescuer, or the perpetrator. And every single one of us has played something of that nature at some point in time. And these are the wounds that are imprinted, and they reflect in this way. And once we begin to see what we're playing out in that particular story, whatever that is, as the mother, as the wife, as the daughter, as the son, as the whomever, that
Mm-hmm.
whatever role we're playing, we begin to see where we are in this triangle. And once we start breaking free out of this triangle, there is no more need to have to live into this story. We are starting to break free of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And once we begin to do that, we can start rewriting. But the story that we're creating is really coming from a deeper place in ourselves, not by the identity that we've assumed by what we were taught or what we were told or what we were programmed, or all the things we bought into, because so much of it is just unconscious. As a
Right.
child, a 5 year old, you're surrounded by an environment. Whatever's going on in your environment, that's going to imprint. That's just the
Mm-hmm.
way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But as we become an adult, we get more opportunities to see outside of that picture.
Mm-hmm.
And all of us have a responsibility as a human race to be able to, shine what we gain in our consciousness or our light out into the world. So, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, in my life, I've worked with lots of different nonprofits and different organizations. When I've worked with homeless people, youth at risk, different types of individuals or groups with disabilities, all kinds of different things. I'm sharing with them these pieces because all of us have unique gifts, no matter what our circumstances
Mm-hmm.
are in life. And the more we begin to share those kinds of truths or those kinds of things, Lachelle, you're an inspiration just by who you are and what you do. And I mean, this is why you're America's Supermom, honestly, and why
Mm-hmm.
you inspire so many people, because you may not have known that when you started on that trail of having your children and all those different things, but a little bits evolved and you went through all kinds of different trials through that
Mm-hmm.
journey, and
Mm-hmm.
you healed from lots of different parts of that
Mm-hmm.
journey. But the moment you made connection with, like, this is my journey and now I get to share some of this, now you get to elevate that story, break out of that story, and now you're living from a deeper truth that speaks to people. And that's the responsibility that all of us have as we begin to develop ourselves. And it's not all like, oh, I have to sit down today at 5 o'clock in the morning and do such and such things. It can be very fluid and in the moment, but that we're bringing our attention to it. And every little bit we do is assisting not just ourselves and our lives and the immediate circles around us, but the whole big collective, because everything is interconnected.
I
Ooh,
love that. And so, for people, I mean, I could go on for hours with the things that you're saying because I totally resonate with everything. And I think it's a part of that journey to where these things start being revealed that you kind of get more momentum to, it's like
mhm.
tipping your foot into the water of a swimming
Yeah.
pool and eventually you want to get in there, so the more you kind of explore, that hunger and desire continues to grow. But one of the things I want to highlight is, when we do have our unique gifts, if we're applying this towards, everybody has different industries or things that they
Mm-hmm.
are passionate about. When it comes to networking for you, how are you able to be around people that may be different, have different industries, but you still, how do you find out what you have in common? Because I think for some people, they may be a realtor and they're like, oh, you know what, I
Mm-hmm.
just need to connect with realtors,
Mm-hmm.
because they're in my vein. And, one of the things that brings this up to mind for me is, you know, dealing with the metaverse. A lot of us are there. We all have different backgrounds, different industries, but we're coming together as a collective working on a project together. So for some people who are stuck thinking that, I have a different unique gift, no one understands me but people in my industry,
Mm-hmm.
how do you advise them to kind of break out of that box
Yeah.
and begin to see the value in being around different people? And how do they determine how they could have something in common, even though their industry may be different?
Yeah. So I'll take this to some a practice that I had long ago when I was really first, I think, exploring the idea of um, how to heal, different parts of my own self, having come through
Mhm.
some difficult challenges and things like that. One of my teachers at that time had told me a little tip or trick that she did, and she uh, said to me, "You don't have to believe this. Just try it. Try it for yourself. Experiment, because that's all this is. You get to experiment with these different things. Some work, some don't, but that's the way the journey is. So she told me, next time you're in a store or somewhere, you encounter something that feels off, like let's say the cashier is rude to you or the waitress is rude or whatever,
Mhm.
but it has to be something that feels like a little bit confrontational, something that kind of triggers you a little bit. Stop and see that person not as what they're doing, but like in a higher essence, like a higher version of themselves, and just hold that picture and hold it around them. And so you're seeing them in a different way, and you're also disengaging your emotional response to want to be like, you know, taking it up with them because they're coming at you or even affronting you in a way.
Mhm.
And she said, just keep practicing that. The better you get at it, the more you're going to see what's going to happen with their response. Now, that was back in my early 20s, this
Mhm.
30 years later, 30 something years later. And it's like, it's so true because,
Mm.
through the course of my journey, and any of us with children out there, anything, we know how we can redirect our children or, disengage. And we know the minute we've entered the other way,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the difference that it makes. But it's true with everyone. And later on, from a more spiritual practice, it was like, entering with my client and seeing them as like the golden Buddha or the Christ itself or whatever you want to see, but seeing that highest version of them. And so when you see a person as whole, now we're transcending those pieces of like, oh, they're the realtor, oh, they're the banker, oh, they're this or that or whatever. And you're seeing beyond that because you're searching for that common ground. Now your consciousness is
Mm.
looking for that common ground. That's different than like superimposing it on them. You're actually looking to connect. There's something from you that energetically does absolutely go out to that individual or that group or whatever and speaks to them in a different way. You're looking to make that connection. So
Mm.
no words have to be said, but you can hold that kind of thought and feeling to hold that connection because it's the two combined.
Mm.
It's, when people talk about visualization, it's not just the pictures of visualizing, it's the momentum of the energy behind the feeling, holding the picture and the image together. So that's what creates that energetic quality that makes the difference or the shift in that
I love
experience.
that.
So that's an important piece because the more we begin to see each other as human beings,
Mhm.
we start to shed away those because face it, you know, when all is said and done, all the professions, all the things we did, they're kind of a facade in a way. When we're laying at that last moment in the last breath, we're all similar in that way. We're going
Mhm.
to be there in that moment. We're going to be taking in, you know, what has been the most important pieces of life, you know, and there's an essence about each of us that's beyond what our profession was or whatever role or identity we played, whatever the stories were. So these are the kinds of things that help us to connect on a daily basis with every encounter that we have, the passerby, the stranger, the commute, whatever it is that you're doing, you know.
Mhm.
And I think that one of the important pieces when we're doing this kind of connection is that we're looking to see a reflection of ourselves. I remember many famous spiritual leaders have spoken about that. Like, if you really want to assess where you are in your own growth and development, just look around you. Look around you.
Mhm.
Like, that's what's going to reflect, because inevitably we're going to attract and create the same kinds of things of where we are ourselves. So when we're putting this out for other individuals, we're seeing that commonness in one another. We're making that connection, and we're invoking that kind of energetic response around us. And we don't always know how that happens, but I've mentioned this to you before in our own conversations. You know, when you pass by someone and it feels good, like it feels like their
Mhm.
smile brightens up, and you can feel like some kind of good energy from them,
Yeah.
positivity, joy, happiness, love, warmth, whatever that might be, but it comes across. And
Mhm.
again, these are subtle things that we don't have to be psychic and clairvoyant to be having these experiences. They're just human. This is how we're beautiful, sensitive human beings that can feel
Yeah.
these kinds of things, you know? And so all of us, if every one of us stops right now and pick a moment, pick someone out in your life that just exuberated some kind of warmth or joy, or you just know you felt good being around that person.
Mhm.
All of us have somebody that we've encountered. And we've
Mhm.
all had that situation where we've encountered it with strangers passing by in the street or whatever, as well as the other, when we've
Yeah.
encountered something that's felt like, oh, that didn't feel good at all, you know? So
Mhm.
we all have those experiences. And so that making that conscious effort to connect in that way, I think, is real important in being able to move beyond and associate in that segregated way of, we're only going to talk with this group, or we're only going to be able to speak to these
Right.
people. Now we're speaking a different kind of language. And part of the vision with Pure Esperanza, and when we envisioned it in a physical space, when we were in the loop, we lived in an area that was really diverse and lots of different people. And I just imagined always that when we had this physical space, wouldn't it be so cool if we had like somebody that looked to be the stockbroker, someone else that looked to be the, art museum theater person, whatever that might look
Mhm.
like. And maybe someone else who was the goth person, or someone else that was the parent and just, working with raising their kids, whatever that might be, but that we could all sit in a room together, and that somehow being held in a space where we were all there learning together, growing together,
Mhm.
feeling safe together, feeling honored and respected and valued together. These are the essential premises and qualities that all of us as human beings want to have, you
So,
know?
yeah,
So,
I love that. And we have a someone who's contributing to the conversation. It says Facebook user. So whoever that is, we want to thank you for watching. But they say the world makes us put up walls that sometimes keep us from sharing our most positive energy with others. So I
yeah,
love that. That is so true. And I had a networking call with someone, I believe it was yesterday. I meet so many people and talk all
yeah,
the time. I feel like does my mouth rest? Okay. But um, she was sharing her vision board, and on her vision board, she added a mirror. And so she calls it a mirror board so that she can be
mhm,
mindful of the reflection that she
correct.
is putting out there for the things that she is working towards. I thought that is phenomenal. I had never seen it before, but it really struck me because that is so true. When you talked about our reflection of what it is that we actually are ascribing to or believing in, we really want to work on making sure those things are in alignment, because we
Yep.
can put anything on a vision board, but
Hmm.
what are you really living? So I love that.
Exactly.
That was really
Yeah.
good.
I love that. I love that whole idea of, community, not just the immediate community of, how we find ourselves with people at our work or people at our church or people in our neighborhood, or our family community, whatever that is, but really extending that idea of community, like in community in the world. A really beautiful quote went something along the lines of like, when we find our reflection in the community, then we are whole, because all of us are these different parts and pieces, so I mean, there's so much we can get into, and there's so much depth that we can get into in terms of, how we find ourselves being able to shed our biases, being able to shed our judgments, being able, but all this work that we do has to start within ourselves. So this
Mhm,
is that exploration we do with ourselves and that healing we do with ourselves so that we truly can love ourselves more. So
mhm,
in those practices that I mentioned, this is about loving yourself. This is about giving yourself that moment to breathe and understand, like, I have breath in me right now. I have life in me right now. No matter what the circumstances are right now, I'm alive. And we can deeply ask within ourselves those questions like, I need to be guided to what next comes. What are the next steps I need to take? And take that deep breath and be able to step towards that and have
mhm,
that premise that we're going to move in that way. And even if you have to fool yourself into
mhm.
thinking that, but doing that and doing it with your faith and your commitment to take those steps, because like my teacher told me one time, you don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe
Right.
anybody talking about that. All you got to do is try it. All you got to do is try it and use it consistently and watch for yourself how things start to change.
Love that. That is so good. Well, this has been wonderful. Again, I love it. The time goes by so quick. I could go on
Yes.
for hours because this has been a great conversation. So many great takeaways and insights and practical ways that we can start making those small shifts in the direction that we want to go into. So tell everybody the best way to get a hold of you.
The best way to get a hold of me is two websites. So the nonprofit website for Pure Esperanza that will be in the metaverse is pureesperanza.org. And do you need me to put that in, or are you going to just do that in the? Do you want me to
Yeah,
put that
it
in?
actually is probably already in the comments, but
Okay,
yeah,
great.
we'll make sure that
So
it's in there.
pureesperanza.org, that's where you can catch us there. And then if you're looking to do some of your own journey in your own healing, in the work that you want to do for yourself to create your life and your destiny, you can reach me at esperanzasmith.com. And that's where we do one-on-one energy medicine work. But there are many different types of practitioners and people that do different modalities to work with individuals in their healing and always reaching our highest potential. That's what we're here to do.
So true. Love that. Well,
Thank
we
you.
want to
Thank you,
thank
Michelle.
all of you guys for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. We've had one person who was very active in the chat while we were recording. So I just thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
It says Facebook user, so I don't even know who that is, but they said they love your name Esperanza because it means hope. So
It does mean
um,
both. Yes.
we are really excited that you took some time out of your day to join us. If you have any questions for Esperanza, feel free to reach out to her by email or click on our website, reach out.
Mhm.
I encourage people to have a conversation. So
Yes.
many things can change from just one conversation. And as you see with our conversation today, how we can really learn some techniques, some hacks, strategies on how we can continue to move forward in a way that serves us and helps us to be better versions of ourselves. We have Celia who says, "Hey, hey Celia, we want to give you a shout out." But if you have any questions, and while you're watching this, feel free to put the questions in the comments, and we'll be sure that Esperanza gets those so that she can reach out to you. But in the meantime, again, Esperanza, thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here and just being able to share in this conversation. Because you're right, Lachelle. Every one of us has something to share, something that is of value, something that we can share with one another. And it's joy. It's truly a joy. I love encountering everyone that I meet, all the different kinds, the pleasant and the unpleasant, because there's always going to be a takeaway. There's always going to be something that you can glean from it. And those are the gifts. Thank you
So
so
true.
much.
You
Thank
are
you.
so welcome. And that Facebook user is Cynthia Brown. So she has been a guest here as well. So we want to thank you, Cynthia, for watching. And I'm going to connect you guys because you guys would be great
Yeah.
connections for one another.
And I'd
Um,
love to hear from anyone out there. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here to serve. Just
All
like
right.
you, Lachelle. Thank you so much for being here and for bringing us all together in this way. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Well, there you guys have it. Another great episode, great content, great takeaways. So, thank you guys so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing all of you again on our next episode. Bye for now.